Today we're going to talk about the P&G one-page memo. And my introduction to this came my very first day on the job at P&G. I come back from lunch, my boss asked me to help him go to a meeting, and he says, why don't you take good notes of the meeting and type those up? So I take copious notes, type it up, turn it in, and the next morning it's returned on my desk with red ink all over it. And so I fix it, and I turn it back in, and the next morning it's back on my desk again with more red ink. Now I'm getting a little annoyed. I fix it, and I turn it back in, and it's back there on Thursday morning with more red ink, and now I'm really annoyed. And so I fix it and turn it back in, and on Friday morning it's back on my desk with more red ink, and I finally just walk into my boss's office and I go, look, I don't get it. I mean, what I'm saying and what you're saying is the same thing. You're just formatting it differently. What's the big deal? And he sits back and he just starts laughing. And he says, welcome to P&G. This is the firewalk that everybody has to go on. You see, we have a very particular way of writing here at P&G that everybody does, and you have to learn it. And so next week we're going to send you and all the other new hires to a class where you're going to learn how to write in P&G one-page memo style. And, you know, if you go in and you just Google P&G one-page memo, you know, some of the things that people say on it is that one of the greatest contributions to developing the modern business mindset comes from Procter & Gamble in the one-page memo. And in the digital age, when time and attention is scarce, the one-page memo is more important than ever before. I had forgotten all about it, to be honest. You know, I've always written in that style, but I never really thought about it as an important thing to teach until 2017. I went back to Southern California. We had a reunion of all the people that I worked with at Disney Home Video. Yeah, there I am, standing in the group. And while I'm standing there talking to some folks, a kid that was my first hire at Disney by the name of Gordon Ho. He's now the Senior Vice President of Global Marketing for Princess Cruise Lines. And Gordon, I hadn't seen Gordon in about 20 years. And he comes walking up to me, and instead of saying, hey, how you doing? Good to see you, the first thing out of his mouth is he says, I never thanked you for teaching me how to write. That's been the most valuable and useful skill I've ever learned in my career. You know, and I thought that was kind of odd. And so when I got back to campus, I was sitting in my office and I had a conversation with a student named Eliza Comer, who was the president of the Huntsman Marketing Association and had just landed an internship to go out to General Mills in Philadelphia for the summer. And so, you know, I was telling her about it. She says, well, why don't you teach us that in HMA? So I said, okay. So I took a class period in Huntsman Marketing Association, and I taught everybody how to write the memo. And so she goes off on her internship, and she's like 2 weeks in, and she calls me in a panic, and she says, the division manager called me into his office and asked me if I'd teach everybody in the Philadelphia office how to write a memo in P&G one-page style, because she had written a couple of memos, passed them up, and he loved it so much that she ended up teaching everybody at the Philadelphia office how to write a P&G one-page memo. Just a little intern, only been there 2 weeks. So I decided I probably ought to integrate it back into the class. I'd never done it before, so I built it into the class after that. And the thing about the one-page memo, you know, is it creates a common language. You know, at P&G, the language and the style is the same everywhere, clear and concise communication. And the idea for it came from the former president of P&G, Richard Dupree, who said, I don't understand complicated problems. I only understand simple ones. When an interviewer once queried him about this, he explained, part of my job is to train people to break down an involved question into a series of simple matters. Then we can all act intelligently. And so Charles Decker, another former P&G head, said, you know, if you can learn to write a P&G memo, you can learn how to think. The memo becomes a knowledge codification tool, a way to present ideas, arguments, and recommendations in a language and style that everyone at P&G understands. And so here's the thing about the P&G memo. It requires that you write from the perspective of the reader, not from your perspective. You have to flip the chair around and think about, what does this person want to know? What will he or she want to know in order to make an informed decision? So I need to lay out for them everything that is relevant that can help them make a decision. And it's focused on writing that eliminates the irrelevant. Eliminates the irrelevant because you have to do so in a very precise and concise manner because you only have one page. You can't stretch it to two. You can't go an extra paragraph. It has to fit on one page, one side, normal margins, normal fonts. And I've attached some examples here on the assignment that you can take a look at. But the point of it all is when you think well, you write well. And so it forces you into a very precise way of thinking. The structure. You address the memo to the person who can make the decision. And we use a first name or first initial and then the last name. So, for example, if someone was writing me an email, they would address it to E.D. Schultz. If they don't know my middle name, they just would have called it E. Schultz. But you don't put first names in it all. You just use initials for the first name because it's gender neutral. In your first paragraph, you have to say what is it that we're asking for or what is it that we're reporting. The first sentence states the purpose of the memo. The second sentence states what you're asking for or reporting. The third sentence states the benefit to the company will receive from doing it. And then you have a background paragraph where you quickly summarize any relevant background information that led up to this point to get the reader up to speed if they haven't been involved with the process at all, facts, trends, and issues. How it works. Explain the details of your proposal. How, what, who, when, where. Key benefits. Outline the top 3 benefits or insights your proposal or summary offers. And the idea behind that is really simple. If you can't convince me with your top 3 insights or benefits, you're not going to convince me with a list of 29. So give me your best shot, give me your 3 best shots and be done. And then finally, next steps, what needs to happen next, what should be done, who does it, and when. So the memo writing becomes a process of eliminating the irrelevant and distilling to the key issues. Focused clarity of thought and action, concise and precise thinking and writing. And so your task now is to write a P&G one-page memo. And there are examples of it attached to this assignment, so go through those, look at those carefully. But what I really want you to focus on is the format, because the format is the key here. Make sure you're doing exactly the right sections. Things are bolded and underlined. Look at those examples well. Notice where you have to bold things, where you have to underline things, and be very precise and concise in your writing, because that's what you're going to get judged on. You're going to get judged on, does it look right? Does it have the right look and feel? Is there white space here? Are things lined up? This is really about paying attention to detail. Quality is measured in attention to detail. So be concise, be precise, write. Make sure your memo is completely formatted in the correct spot with the right numbers and the right underlines and all that kind of stuff, because that's what you're going to be graded on. So good luck.